Welcome back. Take Control of Your Life podcast. This week I have Bill and Jude Black from Appalachian Counseling. And I am really excited to do this one because about 2 months ago I came to you, Bill?
Yeah, about 2 months ago, I guess.
About 2 months ago I came to Bill and I said, I think I need to talk to someone. And therapy is I've always felt like I could figure it out myself. And Bill said, I got a perfect guy for you. And he was right. I love the guy that I work with. It's been perfect. So one of the things you guys do differently is I don't know if it's called the onboarding approach, but how you introduce your clients to their therapist. So if you could just give us a background on you and then kind of what makes Appalachian Counseling different from where people might go differently. And then we have a couple questions that we'll go through as far as mental health and physical health.
Sure. So I am Dr. Jude Black, and I used to be licensed in 4 states. Now I think I'm up to 8. I'm also nationally certified. Been doing this longer than I haven't. And I think what makes us so different is we didn't have to build a company. I often joke that I'm an accidental therapist and an accidental business owner. You know, I got into the therapy world because my husband was in the military, and I found that I was holding space for a lot of the soldiers downrange more, again, than I wasn't. And so I fell into the trauma realm, and people started working me out of a job. And when we started Appalachian, I was really frustrated with how traditional behavioral health was done. I was noticing that people felt broken, and they felt as if something was wrong with them, and their needs weren't being met with dignity and respect. So I quit the job I was doing and hung one tiny little shingle, and I started building a company based on what I wish I would have had. And it's taken off from there. With our onboarding process, we look at what the needs are, and we have a team of experts that have experience in so many different realms. And we really try to curate a relationship based on what the needs and the expertise are, as well as the personality of the therapist. We usually get it right. There's times that we don't get it right, and then we take a step back, reevaluate, and I joke a lot about, I think therapy is like trying on shoes. You can try on the best pair of shoes you've ever seen in your life, and they're going to leave you with blisters. But sometimes you try on the ones that you don't believe would be a great fit, and they're the best sneakers you've ever worn.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah.
I think I told you, I had tried. There was 2 different marriage counselors we tried through BetterHelp, and then I tried to see a personal therapist, and I didn't like being talked to like a baby. That just didn't fit me very well. And so when Bill said, I got the perfect guy for you, again, it does work well because we talk to each other like humans. And so how many therapists do you have on staff?
27.
Okay, we have 27 in Appalachian. We also have an e-therapy cafe, which is very similar but different. They're licensed clinicians, and they're also expert-level life coaches. And we meet people all across the U.S. and globally, serving their needs.
Can you walk me through your onboarding process? Because it is different, and I still do all of the onboardings and all the intros here as a business owner. And one of the things I didn't realize, I was talking to Bill one day, you still do all of the, when someone fills out that form, yeah, you still partner them with their person. So can you walk us through what that looks like?
Sure, it's easy. We have a very simple registration form that we get the demographics, and I want an overview of what you're coming to us for. That gives us a snapshot into creating a pathway forward. And then once we receive that, I get those directly. I am the one that's hand matching each new client with a therapist. And again, I have my own matrix. I look at what their insurances are. I look at whether they want in person, whether they want online. I look at what their needs are. I look at what their past history is, just to get an idea of how can I make this the best fit possible from the start. And then once the registration is complete, our therapists personally reach out to each and every client to give them a welcome. And the help desk is available throughout most of the day and sometimes into the night to answer any questions that anyone would have.
How important is it for someone filling out that form to be as open and honest as possible?
I would love it if everybody was open and honest, but what I've learned through the years is what people say they're coming to us for is rarely what they end up working on. So I would say just if you can give me just a basic overview. I have anxiety, I have trauma, I have depression. I don't know what I have, but I'm not happy. If you can give me just the nuts and bolts of where our conversation could start, we can either float back or float forward to figure out where we're actually going to go.
So and maybe you can give something on this. One of the things I said was I almost felt embarrassed pulling Bill aside and saying, hey, I think I need to talk to a therapist. And so even filling out that form, I almost feel embarrassed that I'm putting these things out of my mind and on paper. So how can someone overcome that initial fear?
I think you have to recognize that it's a feeling, right? And I think society has shamed us into, what you see with these influencers on Instagram. It's a perfect world that you're able to tackle every obstacle coming at you, and that's not realistic. If the fear wasn't there, I'd have more questions than coming in there confidently saying I need help. And I would just encourage people to kind of reframe it in the way that if you need your car fixed, unless you are an expert mechanic, you're going to take it somewhere. If you need groceries, you go to a grocery store. If you need physical issues checked, you go to a doctor. If your PCP can't help you, they're going to refer you to a specialist. We are no different than a specialist that's equipped to help you navigate through the challenging things in your life. And I think we frame it a lot differently, too, that I think I'm one of the few people that's going to tell you work me out of a job. I want that day to come where you look at me and literally fire me because you've gotten everything that you need. And now you're going to go try out these skills and these tools and navigate life on your terms. We're always there to help people if they want to come back and work on something different. But we're not in this for the long haul. I like all of my clients. I love all of my clients. But I also want them to go live their life. We're just here to gather the skills and the tools and the insight and just equip them with a roadmap to move forward and meet some of their goals and objectives.
When someone starts therapy, sometimes we feel like this just isn't for me. And I think it probably took 5 or 6 sessions before we really got to the root cause of why I was feeling the way I was feeling. It was interesting because I go into it initially thinking this is why, but then as we dive deeper, we find different things that pull from us. How many sessions would you say someone should give before thinking about stopping?
Gosh, that's a hard one to answer because I subscribe to the fact that everybody's terminally unique. There's times I can get to the heart of the problem in the first session. But truth be told, I have people I've seen for years and we're barely scratching the surface because trauma therapy, it's long, it's intense, and it's deep. So I would say just give it time. The worst thing that you have to lose is time. The best thing you have to gain is getting your life back to how you'd like it to be.
One more thing before we dive into these questions. Actually, I have 2 things. I know. I just, working with the guy that you guys put me with has really opened my eyes to how important the mental health side is. Because I've coached CrossFit for 5 years, and I've actually been coaching for 15 years. And I didn't realize how important the mental health side was because I always try to use fitness to combat that. And it's been so helpful for me seeing him. So one of the things we discussed was availability for therapy, and some places are 8 to 4 and people work. So what type of availability do you offer? And you said that you also offer virtual.
We do. I am proud to say that we offer 7 days a week, and we don't have the 24-hour shift, but we do have our nighttime warriors and our early morning risers. I'm the early morning riser. I've been known to hop on at 5. I don't prefer that. I typically start at 7, but then we have our individuals that they love the weekends. And so the way we've built our team is as our clinicians' caseloads get full, we add more to the team. We never have more than 1 to 2 weeks wait. The only time that it may be longer than that is if there's some type of psychological assessment, like for ADHD or autism or an intelligence assessment. And we just want to make sure that people's insurance is covering them so that there's no surprises at the end.
And then the other thing I wanted to ask about, I've talked to Bill about this a little bit, is the program you offer for veterans.
Yes, we have a nonprofit that's called Appalachian Trauma and Resiliency Center. And the basic preface of that one is we serve those who serve. What we offer is we offer education, and we offer free counseling with experts off of the record for law enforcement, military, firefighters, first responders, and anyone that's been impacted by trauma.
You guys offer a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Are you ready to dive into some of these questions I sent you?
Yeah, let's try it. I've got my cheat sheet down there, but
Okay. How does regular physical exercise like CrossFit impact mental health?
I think it's like a 360. When I sat down and I was trying to think of some of the answers for the questions you were leading into, when I say 360, you want to be physically strong, but you also want to be mentally strong. And I think about some of the athletes that I've worked with. Let's say an air ball happens. Then they get in their head and it impacts their performance. And if we can help with the mental agility and the mental strength, well, then the physical strength can follow. We can shift that perception that they have in their mind that I'm always going to have an air ball towards, really envisioning their best self and doing some resource development so that the mind is strong, the body is strong, and then your endurance increases. And as we know once endurance increases, you become a little bit more resilient.
What are signs that someone might be struggling with their mental health even if they appear physically fit?
I think we get that a lot too. I look at some of the clients that have come to us with disordered eating, and they are exercise fanatics as well. So they may seem physically fit on the outside, but inside it's pretty much a hot mess. What you may see is them withdrawing. You might see mood dysregulation, that 1 minute they're up, 1 minute they're down. You may see changes in how they're actually living their life, whether they're engaging, whether they're not engaging. Sleep disturbances. Pay attention to the time you get texts from friends. If you're getting texts all the time at 3 a.m, and that is not normal for them, maybe that sends out some spidey senses too. And on the 3 a.m, pay attention to how people are coping. Are they using substances in order to get through? Do you notice that they're numbing out? Are they overreacting? Are they underreacting?
3 months ago, I would not have been as willing to be open about my experience, but I tend to use fitness as the coping piece. How often do you, or I want to make sure I frame this right, do you see that where people will use fitness as a coping tool, and is there such a thing as too much?
Absolutely. I think there's a thing as too much and too little, right? People talk about balance, and I think that balance, it's a hoax. I don't believe in balance. I think it's a series of shifting because nothing in your life is truly going to be 50-50. So you have to pay attention. You have to be mindful and notice, where do I need to put my energy here? If you're in the gym 24/7, what are the other areas of your life that are now lacking? Where can you shift a little bit of that energy and build up over here?
What roles does community and social connection, like a CrossFit gym, play in mental health well-being?
Absolutely everything. And when I say that, I think about, to me, what wellness is. And typically I work in fours. I look at 4 principles for resilience. I look at 4 principles for wellness. And for wellness, it's really simple. I look at sleep, nutrition. I look at exercise and connection. And CrossFit embodies a lot of that. You look at, how are you fueling your body? How are you sleeping? I'm sure that's a question that you ask people because you have your early morning workout of the days, right? You notice when people come dragging in, you notice when they're energized. The connection for me is a super big part. You guys build a community in here. And when I was talking with Bill about this, that's what he said. It's more than a gym, it's a community. Coming from the military, our community was deeply embedded in everything that we did. Moving to the civilian world, it was really difficult to find that network of people who get you. With this, you have that connection in the community. And I often, look at the connection as, who are your candle lighters and who are your candle blowers. And you've got to choose this wisely. And to tell you a little bit what I mean is, if you think about one person in your life that when you spend time with them, it literally sucks your soul. Okay, that's your candle blower. If you look at the people in your life and, if you just pause and think about one person in your life that makes you feel like you are the best version of yourself, that they see you in a lens that you wish everybody could see you. They're encouraging, they're empowering, they motivate you. They actually are quiet and hold space for you. Those are your candle lighters. And I think that CrossFit has a lot of the candle lighters here, that they're empowering. They accept you for who you are. They encourage you to be a better version of yourself. They see you in a lens that maybe you may not see yourself right now. And that, like I said, is one of my 4 tenets of overall wellness. And you provide all of that, with the exception of you can't make us sleep. But,
Right.
You provide all of those tools that's going to give us the totally best version of ourselves.
It's interesting you talked about did you call them pillars or quadrants?
Facets, pillars, quadrants, any of it, yeah.
Well, one of the courses I took, we went over we called them 4 quadrants, and it was eat, sleep, move, manage. And
Okay.
Manage is stress, mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And we go over this sometimes in our goal reviews, and we actually dive into those 4 quadrants when we do our nutrition coaching, because we often see people who are struggling with weight loss, not necessarily the nutrition side, it's more of the sleep and the managing the stress side. So that was interesting for you to talk about that. The other thing, one of the things I've been very proud of being able to do with this gym is being accepting of people from all walks of life. So one of the things, and I have gone over this with people before, where they say everyone's just so kind here and everyone's so welcoming. And I think one of the things we don't do is we don't discuss religion, politics. And those are the 2 things that will drive people away. And so we have people from all different beliefs and all different walks of life, but we all show up for the same thing, and it's to get 1% better in our fitness world. Can high intensity exercise like CrossFit help with managing anxiety or depression?
Yes, absolutely. What you're doing is your brain is getting that cocktail of everything it needs to thrive and survive. You get the endorphins, and we often refer to them as the healing agents. And if you think about having a runner's high, or how you feel after a great workout, the dopamine, again, it's those feel-good chemicals. The happy chemicals is what I call them. They empower you. They make you feel like a better version, again, of yourself. And then we also look at the serotonin. And you're getting all of that through doing these workouts in high intensity. And it can transition into your personal life and professional life, too. If you notice that you get through something that was super hard, that may give you the wherewithal to try something semi-hard in your professional or personal life, because now you have proof and experience that you can get through something hard. We look back on our worlds, and if I'd say, what are some of the easy things that you've gotten through? You're going to have to pause, because they're not too memorable. But if I say, what is 1 or 2 of the hardest things that you have ever experienced in your past and got through? That kind of makes you feel good that somehow, some way you got through it, even if you had, a first aid kit full of Band-Aids to do it. You got through it somehow, some way. Now you have ownership that you can get through the hard things, even though it may be a little bit messy too.
You're opening up all these new questions. So we did the marathon row. We did Rhett's Marathon Row about a month ago. We raised money for charity for the AT Children's Project. And I do it as an individual every year. So you row 42,000 meters. And I was telling people leading up to it, you should do it as an individual, because everything else in life becomes easy for the next 3 to 6 months. And so can you maybe talk about that on a brain or chemical side? Why does everything seem easier after doing a task like that?
Well, it all goes back to our brain and how we perceive things, right? Sometimes when you're working in teams or with a pair, you're not taking the credit for your ownership of it. You're giving someone else credit, without geeking into all the brain chemistry. I truly think it's perception. If you do something on your own, holy cow, look at what I just did. And as you said that, like you said, you're opening up all these questions and memories are flipping open. I remember when we were in the DC area, I signed up to do the Army 10 miler, and I am not a runner. So I'm going to preface it by that. I'm not a runner at all. And I was to do it with some friends. The friends didn't show because they were sick or whatnot, so I ended up doing it by myself. Following year, I did it with friends, and I had fun with the journey, but it was harder for me because I was trying to manage someone else. I was trying to listen to someone else. And for me, looking back on it, I had good news and I had bad news. It was all on me. It was all on me. And so how I finished it and the meaning I made from that, it was all on me. And I think I would do it again. I'd walk it, I wouldn't run it, and I'd wear better shoes than I ever have in the past. But I think I'd want to do it on my own.
What are some strategies for maintaining mental resilience during injury or setbacks?
Yeah, well, remember when I said, strong inside, strong outside? Shift the lens that you're looking at. That could be an opportunity to start working on some of the mental strength. Pre-planning for when you're able to engage. Really working at nutrition, maybe focusing on sleep, maybe focusing on some social activities too that, you set aside when you were so physical doing something else. It's that series of shifting, almost like a Tetris. Where can you fill in those gaps to get stronger in certain areas, and what are those areas you want to get strong in? What are the areas you could get strong in? Maybe make a list of 5 of them and pick one. And that way you have 4 other ones if number 1 didn't look the way that you really wanted it to look.
Well, and I think you've done a great job with folks here that have had injury in scaling the workout that we're doing and giving them alternative options to continue to participate and do what they can. Okay, I got a bad leg, I got a bad shoulder, I can't do arm workout today, but I can get on the bike and I can pedal, or I can do running, I can do whatever the event may be. It's making sure they understand you don't just have to quit exercising because you have an injury necessarily. You can still participate at a level that's within, those limitations.
And I think that speaks to the culture and the connection that you've created here. That why are people coming back? Maybe it is the workouts, that's a component, but I think it goes back to the connection as well. They want to be with people that make them feel like a better version of themselves.
What Bill's talking about with scaling and modifying, you come to 6 a.m. and I have multiple athletes that have...
Oh, yeah.
I have an athlete who is still in a knee brace after a year from a pickleball accident. And one of the things that we talk about a lot in our staff meetings is making your athletes feel comfortable doing what they're doing for today and making them feel like it's the right option to make them 1% better versus feeling like they have to do what's written on the TV. I'm trying to think of how to even ask that question. Because when I first started, do you know what the term RX is? It's like the prescribed weight for a fit individual.
Okay.
And at this point in life, I do 99% of those workouts as written, but it took me 5 years to do that.
I do not.
I
just am not there.
We learned last week Bill can't keep up with his gym son.
My gym son is definitely kicking my butt right now. He went from not being able to manage much at all, keeping up with me, to putting me in the dirt every morning now.
Yeah. So when someone has a journey like that, being aware that it just takes time to get to this point, what's some ways that they can be mentally prepared for that journey?
Sure. I think one of the things I'd encourage them, first of all, is grace and mercy. How would that person who's your candle lighter speak to you? Would they encourage you? It's hard for us to treat ourselves the way we treat others sometimes too. So I would say definitely a little bit of grace and mercy, managing your expectations. It's unrealistic that you're going to be 100% every single day, right? Shift your lens a little bit and look at what am I able to do? What can I do? And pick one, and let that be enough for today. And then tomorrow do better. Let that be enough. But always encourage yourself to do more, because if you don't, then you're going to be complacent. That's a terrible place to be too. So encourage yourself to do more, but also be okay with where you are. And, as humans, we tend to fall into this black and white thinking. It's either right, it's wrong. I'm in, I'm out. I'm strong, I'm weak. And I challenge everybody to replace that with the word and. Okay, even though I'm a little bit weaker today, and I can be strong tomorrow. Or what's another one? You can be all jacked up and you can be wicked smart at the same time. It's true. It's true. I really avoid boxing us into these concrete thoughts because I think it holds us back.
So I asked about physical setbacks. Can we talk about mental setbacks? So, and I'll give you an example. I had therapy yesterday, and it was the first time meeting my guy in person. I drove up to Morgantown, thought I was at the electric company, but wasn't. And this is, I'm into double-digit sessions at this point, and I've been feeling really good for the past 2 months. And then we're about 30 minutes into my session, and I feel like I'm having a panic attack or an anxiety attack over just something I brought up to him. And it has been on my mind for weeks, but it wasn't until I talked about it out loud. And I don't know if you would call it a setback, but I sat there for 20 minutes with that. Even now talking about it, I can feel it rising in my chest. And so how does someone deal with the mental health setbacks?
Again, I think it's being a little bit kinder to yourself. You're human. I expect that. People learn every day how to navigate life a little bit more effectively. I also remind them that, the things that you're coming to talk about didn't happen overnight. And it's unrealistic to think that they'll be resolved overnight. It's going to take time. But if you can look back on yesterday, is there one thing that you can notice that is positive? I'm not into positive talks, toxic positivity where everything's rainbows and puppy dogs, but I do think that what you focus on becomes your focus. So going up there yesterday and the session or whatever, is there one thing, without even saying it out loud, that you can think of that, wow, okay, yeah, that was good, or I feel good about that, or I think this is a good thing that happened because of this?
I learn something new every time I'm in there. And you talked about, you were using the word lenses, seeing things through different lenses. And the guy that I see, he also uses that word. Can you maybe explain to people who would be listening to this what you mean by lenses? Because we talked about oftentimes we go in thinking that our problem is our problem, but then we start seeing it through different lenses and it opens up different aspects. So Can we talk about the lenses?
Sure. An analogy that I use is sometimes, you feel so big and the problems that you have are so heavy, and we've got to pull back to make you a little bit smaller, right? I often ask people if your grandma, if you're close to her, or someone in your life that sees you differently than you do, we're looking at this situation, what would they say? How would they see it? How would your therapist see it? How would your best friend see it? Just shifting the lens slightly may give you a different meaning as to what you're experiencing. With teenagers, I often use, you're walking down the hallway and you see someone and they're really in their head and they ignore you. First thing you think is, oh my gosh, they hate me. What did I do? If you shift the lens a little bit and ask yourself, I wonder if it's possible that something happened and they're just trying to manage their way through it. That's a different way of looking at it. I encourage everyone that when you feel really stuck, when things feel super heavy, is there a different way you can look at it? If you shifted your lens, like the old-fashioned little kaleidoscopes that have all the colors, if you twisted it slightly, is it possible that it's not what you believe it to be, and maybe your feelings are getting in the way of the facts? Because our feelings are not statements of facts, and a lot of times we're leading by our feelings, and then we have a lot of cleaning up to do.
How can setting and achieving goals translate to improved mental health?
Like I said, the 360, mental strength and physical strength too. I think that you have to start with ridiculous goals. And when I say ridiculous, I mean so small that you look at me and ask me if it's really a goal. And then you start building. And I call that a pile-up effect. They're so small you don't even recognize that you're doing them. But if you look back on the day you started, it could be impressive. I have people write, I'm not an idiot journal, that when you think that you have a perceived failure or something is so hard that there's no way out, you feel hopeless, you feel frustrated, you feel anxious, you feel angry, write it down. Come back to that the next week and tell me what you did that you got through it. Because you did something, because clearly you're in the next week and it's not where you were. You know, you may be able to identify actions that you took. You may have decided that you let the whole darn thing go. You may have been over it and it's no longer a problem. Or you may have identified specific actions that got you through it, and that's not where you are, and maybe you're still working on it.
Do you think goals are important for mental health?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We do check-ins all the time. I want to know what your long-term goal is, but I also give flexibility to shift, right? Because, again, what you come to may not be your end-all. What you come to see me for may not really be what we're talking about. You know, often I get people that they'll come in and say, you know, my spouse or my friends or my family, they're all a bunch of you-know-whats. They don't like me, they don't get along, and they're the problem. And I'm like, oh, okay, let's start there. Let's start there. But we're not able to control anybody else, so what can we do for you? How can we shift this? And through the conversation, we find the threads and the vulnerabilities, and we give you the tools and you know, the resources that you can strengthen yourself. And it's almost like building a series of chains. And we look at strengthening those chains, but each chain is an objective. Each chain is a goal. So you can look back and see the things that you've done. And I also think it's super important for our brains to bookend things. And when I say that, what I mean is we've got to put limits on certain things, or our brain's looping through it trying to problem solve the what if cycle. Okay, stop. So my goal this week is I'm going to be social one time. And I like numbers because numbers are easy for me to track. I'm going to be social one time. I'm going to show up and take a breath and exhale before I respond to someone. That's simple. And now I can build on that. You know, when you got fired up about something and you recognize that you could take a breath and exhale before you led with your feelings. Okay, well now we're on the track to start responding as opposed to reacting. Let's do more of that. I think you've got to have goals.
Do you use any specific frameworks for setting goals, or do you have multiple? Like we use SMART goals when we sit down for our goal reviews.
Yeah, we use SMART goals with life coaching. But when it comes to behavioral health or anxiety and depression even, we don't really categorize them as SMART goals. I let it be terminally unique. I want to meet you where you are and identify what they are. If you're someone that's super ambitious and you like a lot, well, then we're going to write that down. If you want homework, we're going to do homework. But if you tell me homework stresses me out, we're not doing homework. But I'm going to encourage you to, on a daily basis, identify what we're working on and engage in that. You know, practice makes perfect, but no one gets there overnight. So you got to keep practicing it, and you have to trust the process. Or be willing to let me be the one that can hold that space while you're learning to trust the process.
You know, this podcast used to be the CrossFit Control podcast, but I reframed it to take control of your life because we dive on different topics now. Can we talk about grounding exercises?
Yeah.
So one of the things that he had me doing was the breath work, and I don't know, I can't remember what it's called, but where you look for 5 things in the room.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I'll be honest, I felt really good for the past 6 to 8 weeks, and so I wasn't doing them. And then even, you know, after my session with him, I went and I got another tattoo, and we talked about that's one of my coping pieces. But when I got home and I was laying in bed, I felt that anxiety again. So I did the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I did about 2 minutes of the breath work. And doing the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 took my mind off of what was bringing on the anxiety, and then doing the breath work kind of released the tension that I was having. So can you maybe talk about the grounding work that people could use?
Sure. This is an area that I love because we don't realize that we need this until we need it and we do it. You know, if we're anxious or if we're all up in our thoughts, I'll geek out for just a minute, we're activating that frontal lobe. It's our logic. What I want to do is or when you're stressed out, you're in the feeling part of your brain. I want to wake up the frontal lobe. I want to get that logic back in because right now you're just feeling all sorts of things, right? So we do logic exercises, you know, and for the viewers, if they're listening, if they can just give themselves a moment to think about something over the past week that was a 10 out of 10, you know, what they were feeling in their body, where they were, what was going on, then what I'd encourage them to do is look around, name 5 things you can see, you know, go. Name 4 things you can hear. You're quieting your mind now because you got to pay attention. You know, 3 things you can touch and name them out loud. 2 things you can smell and then take a deep breath in and let it out. The logic is engaged now. You're only thinking about what I'm telling you to do. And so you're calming down those feelings and waking up the part of your brain that's going to help you navigate to the next step. You know, that's one of the favorite groundings that I have. The other one that I do, and people think I'm nuts, but think about this. If you're really having an intense moment or a reaction, or you can't shake some certain thoughts, if you grab a pen or a pencil and write out lyrics to your favorite song, and if you don't know the lyrics, write out your ABCs, write out Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Now I'm going to ask you to please put the pen in your other hand, your non-dominant one. Keep writing. You're so focused on what you're doing that it's really hard to have those feelings because the logic is fully engaged. That part of your brain is really starting to fire. So those are some of the grounding exercises. You know, you can go outside. A lot of people like the grounding with their feet, noticing what the grass feels like, noticing what the dirt feels like, noticing the wind on your skin, the sun. You know, it's engaging all of your senses, your sight, your hearing, your taste, your smell. And then likewise, when it comes to the breath work, if you think about when you're scared or when you're anxious, many people hold their breath. You know, you think about if you're in a haunted house and I go, boo, you're holding your breath. You're depriving your brain from everything that it needs. You know, a lot of people in the field will say, oh, just breathe. I'm not saying that. I'm telling you, let's focus on the exhale. Let's focus on the exhale. How do we get you to get your brain the oxygen that it needs and let it start flowing through your body, calm you down, engage all of your organs? The box breathing is my favorite, where, you know, you envision in your mind just a square little box, and you breathe in across the top, hold it down the side, exhale on the bottom, and then hold it going up. And all you have to do is even stick your finger out, and you can follow that. And typically we ask people to do it to the count of 4, whatever feels right for them. If the emotions are still there, put colors to it. Inhale blue, hold for green, exhale blue, hold for green. And it is engaging the logic, but it's also giving your body exactly what it needs to get back to a relaxed state and out of that tense muscle body. And when you're relaxed, you are smarter, you are stronger, you have more agility. If you think about, you know, boxers, when they come out, they're doing their bob and weave and shaking their hands because they're trying to get their body in a relaxed state. They're quicker and they're faster. You know, it's the same thing with your brain and your body. We want to get you calmed down. We want you in a relaxed muscle body to where you're receptive to what's going on. You know, it's giving you that space in the logic part of your brain that you can make wise decisions that you don't have to clean up after.
You were talking about the frontal lobe.
Mm-hmm.
So my brain, I was an engineer before, I focus heavily on data, and you were talking about turning on the frontal lobe. Mm-hmm. But can you talk about what the frontal lobe does and why it shuts off?
Oh, it's protecting you. That's really what it is. You know, we talk about that in trauma, that, you know, one of the best analogies I can give you is something terrible happens and your brain releases all of these chemicals and it's flooding through your body. Think back to like a haunted house. how you feel your heart race, your stomach drops out. You might be faint. You might get sweaty and clammy. It's from all of these chemicals that your brain has released into your body to protect you. And your central nervous system just goes on a loop. And it's going all the way through your body, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And after something significant like that happens, it may take you a little bit of time to calm down, right? You know, I have people say, oh, I just need a minute. Yeah, you're right. We're trying to get your body to get these chemicals synthesized to the places they need to be synthesized, right? And we also want to wake up your brain. We look at things from the top down or the bottom up, meaning top down, I want your logic heavy. Bottom up, I need you to calm down. And so it's like a double approach with that frontal lobe. We do want it to wake up to get you out of that emotional state that you're in, you know. And likewise, we need your body to calm down a little bit so the frontal lobe can wake up. Your frontal lobe, it's all of your logic. It's your problem solving. It's really what keeps you out of trouble if you're giving yourself that space to use it wisely.
It's something for me, because rather than just having the exercise, so that's my style of coaching too. I don't just tell you guys what we're doing. I give whys behind things and hows. And so when I'm understanding the actual science behind this, it helps me understand the exercises better. What advice would you give to someone struggling with body image issues despite being fit or active?
You know, I think that's a hard one. It goes back to what we're seeing out in society. You know, from young ages, we have the media telling us what beautiful looks like, what strong looks like. And it's really not realistic. Look at your Instagram and all the filters that we can use. You know, I would encourage someone to start thinking about what are things that you do well that you're in control of. You know, great, we've got good genes. That's nothing we've earned. You know, that's something that was. You know, stay away from the mirror. Stay away from the mirror. And let's start giving some emphasis on the things that are making you into a person that people want to be around. You know, if people just want to be around you because you're beautiful or you're fit, you know, where are those deep, meaningful conversations? You know, where is your intelligence being considered? Candle lighters and candle blowers. And again, that one's deeply embedded in grace and mercy. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say, if body image is something that is stealing your joy and getting in your way of living, I would strongly encourage them to talk to someone that's fully equipped to give them the skills and the tools to navigate it, help them shift the lens so that they can become more confident in who they are as a total person.
How can coaches, someone in my shoes, where we are focused heavily on the physical side, how can we help our members with their mental well-being?
I think it's changing the narrative. You are focused on the physical side, but if they're not mentally strong as well, they may not finish the workouts, right? They've got to believe that they can. They have to have measurable goals that are realistic. They have to recognize that they do have the capacity to complete these, follow directions. So, I mean, it does go back to the total mental, you know, the mental strength and the physical strength. Going back and forth between the two, you really can't differentiate between the two of them, because I'd also be curious if you've had people come in here that were so physically strong and they didn't stay because maybe they didn't feel they fit. Maybe they didn't feel they had the ability to do this, even though they truly did.
We've gotten people in the past who want to be able to do certain things, and I really try to frame it in a way of it will happen if we follow these steps. Mm-hmm. And I'm very big on talking about this is what we want to do to be 1% better today. And rather than doing that as a group, when I coach classes, I go to each person and I'll be like, this is what I want you to do. This is what I want you to do. Now, if they found their option, I'm going to leave them alone. Mm-hmm. But if I see them struggling or maybe it's too easy, that's my time to push as a coach. And where I have had problems in the past is an athlete wants to be able to do the RX option, mm-hmm. and they get frustrated or upset with themselves if they can't do it.
Sure. I would have them work backwards from that. Tell me the things you're doing that's going to get you to that RX. let's do those and see where we're at. Have them work backwards on it. Is that a possibility with what you're trying to do with this RX? I don't fully understand the whole concept.
So RX.
I know you're laughing.
I know it is funny. It is funny.
That's why you should join the CrossFit gym.
I do not push.
Come to the workouts at 6 a.m. with your husband.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. You meet a lot of great people. I don't push. So RX is the workout as written for a fit individual. And so if we took all of our 10 skills and we said, okay, this is someone who is well balanced in all their skills. This is the weight, the times, the rep schemes that they should be able to do this in. And my job as a coach is, so if this is a fit person's intensity level, how do I get it to this person's intensity level?
Okay.
And so
I wonder if it still doesn't lie in the narrative that, you know, when you have this formula for a fit person, you know, this is a formula. It's not taking into consideration you being terminally unique, and we're going to do that. You are terminally unique. So this is a formula. Where do we need to make the shifts and adjustments so this is a better fit for you?
So 2 follow-ups there. The people that I have had struggle with this are people who have done CrossFit in the past at different facilities, where they've had that mindset of it has to be this weight or it has to be these numbers. It doesn't. If it's written as a 5-minute workout, I have to use these weights even if it takes me 20 minutes. But I'm going to ask for advice on this because really it needs to come down to the why. Why do you feel you have to do these things?
I would ask them what's getting in their way, you know.
Well, what's one way we can pull that as a coach from the person? Why do they feel they have to use these specific things?
I don't know why they feel that other than maybe that's something they've done in the past. You know, I often ask people as well that, you know, you tell me you used to always do this and this always worked for you. And it probably did, but you've changed. Things have happened along the way, and we need to see you for who you are right now. I'd figure out what their why is. You know, does that, if they're able to do whatever it is they're seeing for that RX, what does that say about them? That they're accomplished? Okay. Does it say that they're fitting a certain model in their mind? Okay. I dig a little bit deeper as to why that is the end-all be-all, and there's no room for shifting or any grace or mercy with that. What do you think about that? Because when you were, no, I'm pulling you into this too. I mean, in the military, it was very regimented expectations.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to, like you said, you have to realize as an individual, you know, this is based on a fit athlete, mostly, you know, and probably in the 25 to 35-year-old age group, you know, that has lifted weights, done calisthenics, done gymnastics, done those types of things most of their life, you know, is where they come up with this ultimate goal weight or repetitions or these things. You know, and if you're not 25 to 35 years old and have worked out your whole life, there's no expectation. You shouldn't have an expectation of being, it's like saying, you know, I want to play in the NFL, but I haven't played football my entire life. You can't do that. I mean, it's just not possible, right? You have to start where you are, put that as a goal, draw intermediate goals in between. I mean, I can do some of the RX weights and reps, depending on the exercise, the types of, you know, numbers that they're putting out. Other days, there's no way. I'm not even close, right? Overhead squats, no way, right? I just can't get there.
What do you think, what are some things we do differently as far as making our athletes feel comfortable? Because what's our average age for the 6 a.m.? 45? I mean, we have some people in their 60s, some people in their 50s.
Probably 40-ish, early 40s as the average. You know, and I think I told you I went to Nashville and I dropped in the gym down there. I mean, in our morning 6 a.m. morning class, you know, I'm not at the bottom of the totem pole by any means of fit athletes in this gym, but there I was struggling to keep up with every single person in the entire gym that morning because they were just a bunch of fire-breathing, you know, young people with extreme fitness levels. So I felt out of place a little bit that day. I was like, holy crap, I feel like I'm slacking today.
So how'd you get through that?
I just said, hey, I'm going to do what I know I can do. We were doing squats. The girl beside me is squatting about 60 pounds more than me. I'm like, I don't care. This is my weight, and this is what I feel comfortable doing this morning, and being able to do, and the number of repetitions and the and the sets that we were doing, because I know I got to go do another 1,000-meter row after this and do 25 burpee long jumps. So if I smoke my legs and do more weight than I'm capable of doing on the squat, I'm not going to be able to finish the other parts of the workout. And my goal is always just to get a good, solid workout in. I don't care. If I don't make the time, I don't make the time. If I can't lift that amount of weight, I lift an amount of weight that makes me feel good about what I did that morning. And then some of it's just mentality, right? Some people feel like I've got to meet the RX weight, but there's no, the way you coach and the way you scale things for everyone who works out, at a same workout, you look around the room, it looks like we're all doing different things on some days, because some people are doing box step-ups and some people are doing 30-inch box jumps and other people are doing, air squats because they can't do box jumps because they have an injury or whatever. So it's just a matter of having a mindset of being able to do the most you can do with the goal of doing whatever that, workout weight is.
Well, one of the things I do as a coach, I never say numbers. I never tell you guys these are the weights. I will say it's a weight that you should be able to do for X amount of reps, and we're going to test that.
Yeah. And
to me, that's one of the most important things, is finding the option that works best for the individual athlete.
Yeah, and I think, when I first started, I didn't spend a lot of time putting my results into the Wodify, which I think has now helped a lot, because when we come in and we're doing a heavy lift day, you can look back and see, okay, what was your 1 rep max on this day? Okay, and you say you should be doing about 80% of whatever your 1 rep max is if you have one. So you can look in there and see, okay, I should be at approximately X amount of weight. And again,
So that's like your I am not a blank, how I have I am not an idiot. That would be your I am not a something.
I am not a slacker.
I am not a slacker journal.
I did show up. That's the hardest part, is getting out of bed in the morning. After that, it's all easy.
Yeah. What time do you get up to make it to the 6 a.m.?
Usually 5:15.
That's not bad.
Yeah. I don't live too far away.
Is Jude already up working in the office?
No.
Not anymore.
No.
Not anymore.
usually.
I used to
If
be.
she has patients at 7, she might be getting up about 5:30 when I'm walking out the door.
Yeah.
To start getting herself primped and ready to go.
I used to be a
downstairs.
4 a.m. warrior, but I had to give that up. But I do like what you were saying, and I don't know if you caught all of that. It does come back to the mental strength, too. It's being mindful and identifying, where you are, allowing that to be okay, and then having those small objectives and goals that are terminally unique for you,
Yeah.
It's not getting distracted by the noise of everything around you, but pulling it in and paying attention to the things that are important to you right now in this moment.
And then, some people are more competitive than others, and you see, Kevin and I go at it in the mornings because I'm fairly competitive. I try to keep up with him now. Ain't happening.
Yeah,
he's becoming a beast. But it makes me push a little harder, trying to keep up with him. And I know if he sees me keeping up or closely keeping up with him, I know it pushes him harder, because he's like, this old man shouldn't be able to can hang with me on this, So it's kind of fun. And that goes back to that whole community thing of, why CrossFit is different than Planet Fitness or, whatever gym you're going to by yourself. There's a handful of people who are workout warriors who can go to the gym at 4 a.m. by themselves every day and get a great workout. There's 80% of the people who go to the gym and spend half their time walking between machines and sitting on machines and looking at their phone and not really exercising, but then saying, hey, I was at the gym this morning for an hour and a half. That's why I like coming here. I don't have to worry about what I'm doing. I know I'm going to get a great workout, and then I'm going to go home an hour later being tired.
But a good tired.
Yeah.
I think we're almost an hour into this podcast, and honestly, it might be one of my favorites that I've done, just because I didn't start diving into the mental health side until about a couple months ago, and even as fresh and green as I am in this, it is honestly so important that we focus on that as well as the physical side. So, closing thoughts, where can they find you?
Sure. For me, I think you've got to give yourself a break, that you're doing the best you can do right now with what you have, and also do more. Push yourself to do more. And it sounds to me like that's everything that you're creating here. You're creating a safe place for things to go sideways, but also a template to get back on track. And that's without judgment. We do have to tap into the mental side of it too. They've got to know their why, or what are you even doing here?
What I meant when I said where can they find you, I meant if someone is looking for mental health, how can they reach out to you?
We're online, or you can call us if you want to check out our websites online. It's www.wvcounseling.com. If you're looking at the Life Coaching or eTherapy Cafe, if you're outside of this area, it's www.e-therapycafe.com. And for our nonprofit that we help those who serve, it's wvtrauma.org.
Do you have any other closing thoughts for our listeners?
No, I would just challenge everyone to show up, and I'm not even looking at my spouse because I can imagine the look that I'm getting right now, but show up. The worst thing that you could lose is 1 hour of your time.
I like it.
I don't know why you would think that I would be.
Because you're trying to get me to come all the time, and I haven't yet.
I know. The worst that can happen is you lose an hour of time.
Shrinking the shrink.
Going back to the mental health piece, 30 years in the Army, going to see the shrink was the last thing you ever thought about doing, but it was probably the biggest thing I should have been doing the whole time I was in the Army. But, when you have a top secret security clearance, you fill out your form every 3 years, the 5 years for your background check. If you mark on there that you've been seeing someone for mental health issues or you've been diagnosed with PTSD, they immediately back then suspended your security clearance. So nobody would, because I can't now do my job, so now I'm going to be potentially sent home. So nobody went and talked to anybody, right? And that's the worst thing you can do. It's horrible for the environment that was created. The stigma's still there. It's coming down quite a bit. But, as Jude said earlier, if you have a broken leg, you go to the ER. If you think you have a broken thought, go talk to someone, right? The worst thing you can happen is you can fix it. You lose an hour, but the best thing that can happen is you fix that thought. You put it somewhere where it never comes back, or you learn how to manage it appropriately, and you get your life back and you move forward. So, huge proponent for mental health since I've seen the results of what we've done, she's done, all of our team has done over the last 5 years. It's just amazing the number of people that we've helped in this community. So
Yeah, I would definitely piggyback on that. There's a lot of people that say, what if it doesn't work? I'm coming back at you. What if it does?
I really appreciate you two coming. I know you're a very busy woman and a woman of the year, right?
That's right. West Virginia Woman of the Year.
Woman of the year. I appreciate you taking the time to sit with us. I think this has been very helpful for most of our listeners. And if anybody's looking to reach out to you, we put up the information. I'll make sure it's in the write-up. So thank you both for your time.
And
thanks.
Thank you for creating a space that we could normalize these conversations. It's part of being a human.
Mm-hmm.